The red sun of Kepler 442b rose over the rocky hills, where the Terran military academy stood like a metal fortress against the harsh landscape. This planet was not kind to life, and that was exactly why the humans had chosen it for their military training. The air was thin and the gravity was heavy, and the weather changed from burning hot to freezing cold without warning. It was the perfect place to make soldiers. Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez walked across the training ground at dawn, checking her watch. Today was the first day of Hell Week, and she had been planning this for months. Maya was a small woman, but her voice could make grown men shake when she was angry. She had fought in 3 wars before becoming an instructor, and her students knew better than to disappoint her. The cadets were already awake and getting ready in their barracks. Ashley Brooks was the first one dressed and ready to go. She was 19 years old and had never lost a training exercise. Her blonde hair was pulled back tight, and her blue eyes were already focused on the day ahead. Ashley checked her gear one more time and helped her squad mates get ready. Emma Thompson was working on her equipment in the corner of the room. Emma was small and quiet, but she had a gift for making things work better than they were supposed to. She could take apart any machine and put it back together improved. Her brown hair fell over her eyes as she modified her rifle scope with spare parts from a broken radio. Lauren Davis sat at her communication station running tests on all the frequencies. Lauren had learned 6 alien languages in her first year and could crack any code the instructors gave her. Her red hair was always messy because she forgot to brush it when she was working on a problem. She tapped her fingers on the desk as she listened to radio signals from across the planet. Nicole White was in the weapons room checking the explosive charges for today's demolition exercise. Nicole was tall and strong, and she loved things that went boom. Her dark hair was cut short, so it would not get in her way when she was working with dangerous materials. She hummed quietly as she carefully measured out the compounds for today's training. What none of the humans knew was that they were being watched. 3 alien observers had arrived at the academy 1 week ago under the cover of a cultural exchange program. They told the humans they wanted to learn about Earth's educational system, but they were really here to spy on human military capabilities. Zarathiel hid in the forest beyond the training ground, using her natural elven abilities to stay invisible. She had been sent by the Silverian Confederation to assess whether humans posed a threat to their peaceful star systems. Zarathiel had long silver hair and pointed ears, and she could move through the trees without making a sound. She watched through high-tech binoculars as the human cadets prepared for what her briefing materials called basic training exercises. Commander Velana observed from a hill 2 kilometers away using advanced Saurian Empire surveillance equipment. She was a large reptilian creature with scales that changed color to match her surroundings. Velana had commanded troops in dozens of battles, and she knew military preparation when she saw it. What confused her was why the humans were putting so much effort into training exercises for mere students. Nexus 7 monitored everything from orbit using sensors that could detect the heat signature of every living thing on the planet. Nexus 7 was a crystalline being from the collective, and it processed information faster than most organic minds could think. It had been calculating human military potential for days, and the numbers were starting to worry the leaders back home. Lieutenant Rodriguez blew her whistle, and the cadets assembled in perfect formation in less than 30 seconds. Maya looked at her students and felt proud of how far they had come. These young people had been training for 2 years, and they were finally ready for the hardest test the academy could give them. Ashley Brooks stood at attention in front of her squad of 12 cadets. Each member of her team was an expert in different skills, but they worked together like they shared one mind. Emma Thompson carried her modified equipment and a toolkit that could fix or improve almost anything. Lauren Davis had her portable communication array and translation software loaded with every known alien language. Nicole White wore her blast suit and carried enough explosives to level a small building. Maya Rodriguez began her briefing for Hell Week. She explained that the cadets would face 7 days of continuous combat simulation with live ammunition and real consequences for failure. They would have to capture enemy positions and defend strategic locations and survive in hostile territory with minimal supplies. The exercise was designed to push them beyond their limits and find out what they were really made of. Zarathiel listened to the briefing through her audio equipment and felt her blood run cold. The humans were talking about live ammunition and real consequences as if these were normal things for students to face. In Silverian military academies, the most dangerous training involved wooden swords and safety nets. Commander Velana recorded every word and transmitted it back to Saurian High Command. She had seen veteran soldiers break under less pressure than what these human children were about to face voluntarily. The Saurian Empire had always considered itself a warrior culture, but this was beyond anything they had ever attempted. Nexus 7 analyzed the training parameters and ran probability calculations. The collective's most advanced combat simulations were less intense than what the humans called basic cadet training. If these were the standards for human students, then what were their actual soldiers capable of? The exercise began with Ashley Brooks leading her squad into the mock urban warfare zone. The buildings were real concrete structures filled with automated defense systems and holographic enemies that could inflict actual pain through neural feedback devices. Emma Thompson immediately began modifying their standard equipment to overcome the challenges they faced. Lauren Davis established communication with other squads and started coordinating complex tactical maneuvers that impressed even Lieutenant Rodriguez. Nicole White used her explosives to create new routes through the urban environment, and her controlled demolitions were works of art. The alien observers watched in growing horror as the human cadets treated extreme danger as routine training. What they did not understand was that this was just the beginning. The second day of Hell Week brought new challenges that made the first day look easy. Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez stood in the command center watching multiple screens that showed cadet squads across the training ground. She sipped her coffee and made notes about their performance while explosions echoed across the valley. Ashley Brooks and her squad had spent the night defending a captured communications tower against waves of holographic attackers. None of them had slept more than 2 hours, but they moved with the same precision as when the exercise started. Ashley studied the tactical map and planned their next objective, while her team cleaned their weapons and checked their equipment. Emma Thompson had worked through the night, modifying their standard-issue gear. She had turned their basic field radio into a long-range communication system that could punch through electronic jamming. Her rifle now had a targeting computer she built from spare parts, and her squad's body armor had been reinforced with materials she found in the ruins of an old factory. Lauren Davis monitored enemy communications while coordinating with friendly units across the entire training area. She had cracked the enemy command codes before dawn and was now feeding false information to the automated defense systems. Her fingers danced across her keyboard as she juggled 6 different communication channels at once. Nicole White was having the time of her life with the demolition scenarios. She had already blown up 3 bridges and collapsed 2 buildings and created a new crater that was visible from space. Her controlled explosions were so precise that she could bring down a 40-story building without damaging the structure next to it. The alien observers were becoming more alarmed with each passing hour. What they were witnessing went far beyond normal military training and entered the realm of actual warfare preparation. Zarathiel had moved closer to the human base during the night using her elven stealth abilities. She watched through her scope as human cadets treated severe injuries like minor inconveniences. One cadet had been shot in the leg by a training round, and after basic field treatment, he was back in action within an hour. In Silverian culture, such an injury would require weeks of healing meditation. Commander Velana recorded detailed observations of human combat tactics and transmitted hourly reports to Saurian High Command. She watched Ashley Brooks coordinate a complex assault on a fortified position using maneuvers that veteran Saurian officers would need months to plan. The human cadet came up with the entire strategy in less than 10 minutes and executed it flawlessly. Nexus 7 intercepted human radio communications and analyzed their tactical discussions. The cadets spoke casually about acceptable casualty rates and resource allocation and strategic positioning as if these concepts were as natural as breathing. The collective's military planners used supercomputers to calculate similar scenarios. On the third day, the training scenarios escalated again. Lieutenant Rodriguez announced that the exercise area would expand to cover the entire continent, and multiple cadet battalions would compete against each other in a mock invasion scenario. The winning team would receive honor ribbons, while the losing teams would spend extra weeks in remedial training. Ashley Brooks studied the continental map with her squad leaders and began planning logistics for a campaign that would span thousands of kilometers. She assigned Emma Thompson to vehicle modification duties and gave Lauren Davis control of all communications intercept operations. Nicole White was put in charge of demolition and obstacle clearance for the entire advance. Emma Thompson looked at their assigned vehicles and immediately saw ways to improve them. The standard armored personnel carriers became mobile command centers with enhanced sensors and communication arrays. The supply trucks were modified with armor plating and defensive weapons. Even the medical evacuation helicopters received upgrades that made them more survivable in combat zones. Lauren Davis established a network that connected every human unit across the continent. She created new encryption protocols and communication procedures that were more secure than some government military systems. Her intelligence analysis predicted enemy movements with accuracy that impressed the academy instructors. Nicole White studied the terrain maps and identified key infrastructure targets across enemy territory. She calculated explosive requirements for dozens of bridges and communication towers and supply depots. Her demolition plans were so thorough that enemy forces would be completely cut off from resupply and reinforcement. The alien observers realized they were witnessing preparation for planetary conquest. From their perspective, the humans were mobilizing their student population for a massive military campaign that would overwhelm any resistance. Zarathiel transmitted an emergency report to the Silverian Confederation describing human capabilities that exceeded anything in their military databases. She watched teenage cadets accomplish objectives that would challenge elite Silverian Special Forces units. The humans moved with mechanical precision and tactical awareness that seemed impossible for such young soldiers. Commander Velana requested immediate reinforcement of Saurian border defenses after observing human training methods. She had commanded elite shock troops for 20 years, but these human students displayed combat skills that surpassed her most experienced warriors. Their casual attitude toward danger and their innovative problem-solving abilities suggested a military culture far more advanced than anything the Saurian Empire had developed. Nexus 7 calculated threat assessments and transmission priority warnings to collective leadership. The human training program demonstrated technological adaptation and tactical flexibility that posed an existential threat to established galactic order. If human students possessed such capabilities, then human professional soldiers must be nearly invincible. The fourth day brought orbital drop exercises that pushed the cadets to their absolute limits. Each squad was loaded into atmospheric entry pods and dropped from low orbit onto random locations across the hostile continent. They had to survive the landing and then complete assigned objectives with whatever equipment survived the drop. Ashley Brooks emerged from her crashed pod in the middle of a desert with half her gear destroyed and 2 injured squad members. Within 30 minutes, she had established a defensive perimeter and begun treating the wounded and salvaged useful materials from the wreckage. By sunset, her squad was moving toward their objective as if the crash landing had been part of the plan. Emma Thompson's pod landed in a swamp where the acidic water dissolved most of their standard equipment. She immediately began adapting their remaining gear to function in the corrosive environment. Her modified breathing apparatus allowed the squad to operate underwater, and her improvised weapons could function despite the chemical damage to their firing mechanisms. Lauren Davis lost all her primary communication equipment in the drop, but quickly rigged a replacement system using components from damaged electronics. She established contact with other squads and began coordinating rescue operations for teams that had suffered worse crashes. Her improvised radio network covered the entire drop zone within hours. Nicole White's pod landed in a rocky canyon where conventional explosives would cause dangerous avalanches. She developed new demolition techniques using shaped charges and directional blasts that could clear obstacles without bringing down the canyon walls. Her innovations in hostile environment demolition exceeded anything in the Academy textbooks. The alien observers watched in disbelief as human cadets adapted to impossible conditions and continued their mission without complaint. These young soldiers displayed resilience and creativity that challenged everything the aliens thought they knew about military capabilities and human limitations. Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez stood before the assembled cadets on the 5th morning of Hell Week with an announcement that would change everything. The final examination would be a planetary-scale war game involving all Academy students in a mock invasion scenario lasting 72 hours. Multiple battalions would compete for control of strategic objectives across 3 continents, using live ammunition and real explosives with permanent consequences for failure. Ashley Brooks listened to the briefing while mentally calculating logistics for commanding operations across multiple time zones. Her squad had proven themselves during the orbital drops, and now she was being promoted to Battalion Tactical Coordinator. The responsibility excited her more than it worried her because complex challenges brought out her best strategic thinking. Emma Thompson received assignment to the Equipment Modification Division, where she would be responsible for upgrading gear for the entire battalion. She looked at the standard military hardware and immediately saw dozens of improvements that could be implemented before the exercise began. Her modifications would give human forces significant advantages in mobility and firepower and defensive capabilities. Lauren Davis was promoted to Intelligence Coordination, where she would monitor enemy communications and coordinate information sharing between friendly units. She studied the exercise parameters and began developing communication protocols that would allow seamless coordination between thousands of cadets operating across vast distances. Nicole White was assigned to demolition planning for the entire continental assault. She reviewed topographical maps and infrastructure surveys and began calculating explosive requirements for hundreds of strategic targets. Her demolition schedule would systematically eliminate enemy advantages while creating opportunities for human advancement. The alien observers interpreted these preparations as evidence that humanity was mobilizing for galactic conquest. From their perspective, the exercise was clearly a rehearsal for actual military operations against alien civilizations. Zarathiel infiltrated closer to the human command center using advanced elven camouflage techniques. She positioned herself where she could monitor human planning sessions and record detailed information about their strategic capabilities. What she heard during the tactical briefings convinced her that humanity posed an immediate threat to Silverian survival. The human cadets discussed occupying 17 star systems as if it were a routine academic exercise. They calculated supply lines and communication networks and administrative requirements for governing conquered populations. Zarathiel did not realize they were discussing theoretical scenarios from their strategic studies coursework. Commander Velana observed human preparation activities and transmitted increasingly urgent reports to Saurian High Command. She watched teenage soldiers plan complex multi-front campaigns with the skill of experienced generals. Their casual discussions of planetary siege warfare and orbital bombardment strategies suggested military thinking far beyond anything the Saurian Empire had developed. Nexus 7 monitored human communications and detected references to advanced weapons systems and tactical doctrines that exceeded collective technological capabilities. The human students spoke knowledgeably about energy weapons and space-based artillery and defensive shields, as if such technologies were commonly available to them. The exercise began with Ashley Brooks coordinating the deployment of 3,000 cadets across multiple theaters of operation. She established command protocols and communication schedules and tactical objectives that would test every aspect of their military training. Her planning documents read like preparation for actual interplanetary warfare. Emma Thompson unveiled her equipment modifications to amazed instructors and fellow cadets. She had created portable energy shields from standard power units and improved their rifles to fire more accurately at longer ranges. Her modified vehicles moved faster and carried more supplies and survived damage that would destroy unmodified equipment. Lauren Davis demonstrated her communication improvements by establishing real-time coordination between units separated by thousands of kilometers. Her encryption protocols were more secure than official military standards, and her translation software could handle emergency communications in any known alien language. She had accidentally hacked into several alien observation networks without realizing it. Nicole White began her demolition sequence by destroying a series of bridges and communication towers across enemy territory. Her explosions were so precisely calculated that they created exactly the desired tactical effects without unnecessary collateral damage. The mushroom clouds from her larger demolitions were visible from orbital observation platforms. The alien observers reached their breaking point as they watched human capabilities exceed everything they had previously believed possible. Emergency meetings convened across multiple alien governments as intelligence reports flooded in describing human super soldiers and advanced military technologies. Zarathiel transmitted desperate warnings to Silverian leadership describing human tactical innovations that could overwhelm any known defense. She had watched cadets develop new assault techniques during coffee breaks and solve complex logistical problems as casual conversation topics. Their military culture appeared designed to produce soldiers capable of conquering entire civilizations. Commander. Velana requested immediate evacuation as she realized the scope of human military superiority. She observed cadets surviving environmental conditions that would kill veteran Saurian warriors and accomplishing objectives that elite special forces would consider impossible. The gap between human and Saurian military capabilities was larger than anyone had imagined. Nexus 7 calculated survival probabilities for collective civilization if humans decided to expand beyond their current territory. The analysis suggested that resistance would be futile and negotiation would be the only rational response to human military supremacy. Collective leadership began preparing for immediate diplomatic contact. Ashley Brooks led her battalion through a series of victories that impressed even Lieutenant Rodriguez. Her tactical innovations revolutionized small unit coordination, and her strategic planning demonstrated understanding of military principles that took professional officers years to master. She treated the massive exercise as an interesting puzzle rather than a life-or-death struggle. Emma Thompson's technological innovations began working better than official military research projects. Her improvised shield generators stopped attacks that would penetrate standard defensive systems. Her modified weapons hit targets at ranges that exceeded manufacturer specifications. Even her improvements to basic survival gear helped cadets operate in conditions previously considered impossible. Lauren Davis accidentally intercepted alien military communications while testing her signal processing improvements. She decoded several alien languages and monitoring protocols without realizing the significance of what she had accomplished. Her routine communication exercise had penetrated security systems that alien governments considered unbreakable. Nicole White's demolition artistry created tactical advantages that changed the entire flow of the exercise. Her precision explosives opened new routes through impossible terrain and eliminated enemy strongholds that were supposed to be impregnable. Her techniques were so innovative that Academy instructors began revising their textbooks based on her demonstrations. Lieutenant Rodriguez observed the exercise from the command center and felt proud of how her students had exceeded every expectation. She made notes about exceptional performances and planned commendations for outstanding achievement. What she did not know was that alien governments across the galaxy were preparing for humanity's inevitable conquest of known space. The exercise continued with human cadets accomplishing impossible objectives and displaying military capabilities that challenged every assumption about human limitations. The alien observers prepared to take desperate action to prevent what they believed was humanity's preparation for galactic domination. The final day of Hell Week arrived with Ashley Brooks leading her battalion toward the ultimate objective. The exercise required capturing and holding the strategic command center known as Installation Omega for 12 continuous hours against all opposition. What the cadets did not know was that Installation Omega was an abandoned mining facility that instructors had converted into a training prop decades ago. Ashley studied the tactical situation and developed an assault plan that would have impressed professional military strategists. She assigned Emma Thompson to reconnaissance and infiltration, while Lauren Davis coordinated intelligence gathering and Nicole White prepared demolition charges for breaching the outer defenses. The plan was elegant and thorough and completely beyond what anyone expected from student soldiers. Emma Thompson approached the installation using stealth techniques she had learned from studying ancient ninja manuals. Her modified equipment allowed her to move undetected through sensor fields that should have been impossible to penetrate. She mapped the entire facility and identified weaknesses in the defensive systems that even the instructors did not know existed. Lauren Davis intercepted enemy communications and discovered that 3 other battalions were planning simultaneous assaults on the same objective. She immediately began feeding false information to their command networks while coordinating with friendly units to establish tactical superiority. Her electronic warfare capabilities exceeded anything the Academy had expected from cadet-level training. Nicole White calculated precise explosive requirements for breaching the installation's defensive barriers without damaging the command equipment inside. Her shaped charges would create perfect entry points, while her diversionary explosions would confuse enemy defenders about the real direction of attack. She worked with the focused intensity of a master craftsman, preparing her greatest creation. Alien observers watched in horrified fascination as human teenagers prepared to assault what they believed was a heavily fortified military installation. The tactical sophistication and technological capabilities they witnessed confirmed their worst fears about human military supremacy. Zarathiel observed the assault preparations through her concealed position and realized that Silverian military doctrine had no answer for human tactical innovations. She watched Ashley Brooks coordinate complex maneuvers involving thousands of soldiers with the casual efficiency of someone organizing a social event. The human command structure operated with precision that made Silverian military hierarchy look primitive. Commander Velana recorded detailed observations of human assault techniques and transmitted final intelligence reports to Saurian High Command. She had spent her career studying military tactics, but the humans were implementing strategies that challenged everything she thought she knew about warfare. Their ability to adapt and innovate during active operations suggested military thinking. That was centuries ahead of Saurian development. Nexus 7 monitored the human assault and calculated tactical probabilities that defied logical analysis. The human cadets were achieving success rates that exceeded theoretical maximums for military operations. Their coordination and equipment effectiveness and individual capabilities suggested technological and training advantages that made resistance pointless. The assault began at dawn with Nicole White's diversionary explosions drawing attention to false attack routes, while Ashley Brooks led the real assault through weaknesses that Emma Thompson had identified. The coordination was flawless, and the execution was devastating, and the entire operation succeeded far faster than anyone had predicted. Emma Thompson's infiltration equipment worked so well that she penetrated the installation's inner defenses, without triggering a single alarm. Her improvised technology had capabilities that exceeded official military specifications by significant margins. She disabled security systems and opened access routes that allowed friendly forces to advance, without opposition. Lauren Davis coordinated the assault through communication networks that connected every participating unit in real time. Her intelligence analysis predicted enemy responses before they happened, and her electronic countermeasures neutralized opposing communication systems. She managed information flow for thousands of soldiers while maintaining perfect situational awareness. Nicole White's precision demolitions created perfect breach points that allowed human forces to enter the installation without suffering casualties. Her explosives were so carefully calculated that they eliminated defensive obstacles while preserving valuable equipment and infrastructure. The resulting entry routes were works of military engineering art. Ashley Brooks led her forces through the breached defenses and captured the command center in less than 2 hours. Her tactical leadership during the assault demonstrated understanding of military principles that professional officers spent decades learning. She treated the complex operation as routine training while accomplishing objectives that should have required elite special forces. Lieutenant Rodriguez watched the assault from the command center and realized she was witnessing military excellence that exceeded academy standards by enormous margins. She made notes about tactical innovations that would revolutionize military doctrine and individual performances that belonged in advanced warfare textbooks. What concerned her was that this group of cadets was performing slightly below average compared to last year's graduating class. The alien observers reached their breaking point as they witnessed human students accomplish what they believed was the conquest of a strategic military installation. The tactical superiority and technological advantages displayed during the assault convinced them that resistance to human expansion would be futile. Zarathiel broke cover and approached the human command post under a flag of truce. She formally requested permission to surrender on behalf of the Silverian Confederation and offered to negotiate terms for peaceful coexistence with human military forces. Her people were prepared to accept subordinate status in exchange for survival. Commander Velana transmitted immediate surrender orders to all Saurian military units and requested permission to offer formal capitulation to human authority. She explained to her superiors that Saurian military capabilities were inadequate to resist human expansion and that negotiation was their only hope for maintaining some degree of independence. Nexus 7 broadcast unconditional surrender across all collective communication networks, and began preparing diplomatic protocols for establishing peaceful relations with human civilization. The collective leadership agreed that immediate submission was preferable to inevitable defeat in any potential military conflict. Lieutenant Rodriguez and the Academy staff were completely confused by the alien surrenders. They had been told that these visitors were cultural exchange students interested in human educational methods. The formal military surrenders made no sense in the context of routine training exercises. Ashley Brooks approached the surrendering aliens with genuine concern for their welfare. She offered medical assistance and asked if they needed emergency evacuation to proper medical facilities. Her polite inquiries about their health and safety convinced the aliens that humans possessed both overwhelming military power and admirable restraint in dealing with defeated enemies. Emma Thompson examined alien equipment with professional curiosity and offered to help repair any technology that had been damaged during the exercise. Her casual expertise with advanced alien systems suggested that human technological capabilities far exceeded what any alien civilization had achieved. Lauren Davis attempted to establish proper communication protocols with the alien delegates and discovered that her routine signal processing upgrades had accidentally cracked several alien military encryption systems. She apologized for the intrusion and offered to help them improve their communication security. Nicole White offered to demonstrate safe demolition techniques that could help alien civilizations with their infrastructure development projects. Her casual expertise with explosive technologies convinced the aliens that human engineering capabilities could reshape entire planets with ease. Other alien governments monitoring the situation began transmitting preemptive surrender messages, rather than risk facing human military forces in actual combat. The Academy staff grew increasingly confused as surrender offers arrived from civilizations they had never heard of before. The confusion reached its peak when Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez found herself sitting across from 3 alien delegates in the Academy's conference room, trying to understand why they wanted to surrender to what they thought was an unstoppable human war machine. The reality was slowly becoming clear through a series of increasingly embarrassing misunderstandings that had convinced multiple alien civilizations that humanity was preparing for galactic conquest. Ashley Brooks sat next to Lieutenant Rodriguez, trying to explain that Installation Omega was just an old mining facility converted into a training prop. The alien delegates looked at her with expressions of disbelief when she mentioned that the strategic military installation they had watched her capture was actually filled with cardboard targets and holographic projectors. Zara Thiel spoke first for the Silverian Confederation and explained that her people had been monitoring what they believed were preparations for interstellar warfare. She described watching human super soldiers accomplish impossible objectives and deploy advanced technologies that exceeded anything in Silverian military databases. When Ashley explained that these were routine training exercises for student soldiers, Zara Thiel's pointed ears drooped with embarrassment. Commander Villana represented the Saurian Empire and had prepared detailed surrender terms based on her observations of human military capabilities. She had watched teenage cadets survive environmental conditions that would kill veteran Saurian warriors and accomplish tactical objectives that elite special forces would consider impossible. Learning that Hell Week was considered basic training made her large reptilian frame slump with shock. Nexus 7 spoke for the collective through its crystalline communication interface and transmitted mathematical analyses proving that human military capabilities exceeded all known civilizations combined. The collective had calculated that resistance would be futile based on observations of cadet training exercises. Discovering that the Academy was actually trying to tone down their training program because it was too difficult made Nexus 7's crystal structure flicker with confusion. Emma Thompson tried to explain that her equipment modifications were just hobby projects using spare parts and basic engineering principles taught in first-year technical courses. The alien delegates examined her improvised technology and realized that human educational standards included advanced scientific knowledge that their civilizations considered classified military secrets. Lauren Davis demonstrated her communication improvements and casually mentioned that she had learned 6 alien languages during her spare time because she thought they sounded interesting. She apologized for accidentally intercepting alien military communications and offered to teach them better encryption techniques based on methods she had learned in her computer science classes. Nicole White showed the aliens her demolition calculations and explained that precision explosives were considered basic safety requirements for construction work on human colonies. Her controlled demolitions that had created mushroom clouds, visible from space, were actually considered small-scale operations compared to standard human mining and terraforming projects. Lieutenant Rodriguez realized that the Academy had been accidentally intimidating entire galactic civilizations with training programs designed to prepare teenagers for military careers. She explained that Hell Week was actually a scaled-down version of the original program because previous versions had been too demanding even for human students. The aliens requested detailed explanations of human military doctrine and were shocked to learn that the tactical innovations they had witnessed were improvised solutions to training problems rather than advanced warfare strategies. Ashley Brooks showed them Academy textbooks, and the aliens realized that human basic military education included tactical knowledge that their civilizations reserved for elite command staff. Zarathiel asked about human space combat capabilities and learned that the orbital drop exercises were considered routine paratrooper training rather than advanced assault techniques. The Silverian Confederation had never attempted orbital infantry deployment because they considered it too dangerous for practical military use. Commander Villana inquired about human weapons technology and discovered that the modified equipment used by cadets was considered standard field maintenance rather than advanced engineering. The Saurian Empire's most sophisticated weapons systems were less effective than tools that human teenagers built from spare parts during training exercises. Nexus 7 analyzed human educational curricula and calculated that basic human knowledge included scientific principles that the collective had spent centuries developing. Human students learned physics and engineering and tactical theory as routine coursework, while alien civilizations treated similar knowledge as advanced research topics. The cultural exchange became genuine as both sides realized the enormous misunderstanding that had led to multiple alien surrenders. The aliens were fascinated by human training methods and educational philosophy, while the humans were curious about alien military traditions and technological development. Ashley Brooks offered to demonstrate basic tactical exercises for alien observers who wanted to understand human military training. The resulting demonstration convinced several alien governments to request formal military exchange programs with human academies. Ashley became the Academy's first instructor in interspecies tactical coordination. Emma Thompson was recruited by the Academy's research division to develop technology exchange programs with alien civilizations. Her hobby projects became the foundation for scientific cooperation agreements that advance technological development across multiple species. She specialized in creating simplified versions of human technology that alien civilizations could safely use. Lauren Davis established the Academy's first xenolinguistics department and began training programs for interspecies communication specialists. Her casual expertise with alien languages became the basis for diplomatic protocols that prevented future misunderstandings between human and alien governments. Nicole White was assigned to the Academy's new Cultural Safety Department, where her expertise in controlled demolitions helped establish guidelines for human activities that might accidentally intimidate alien observers. She developed demonstration programs that showed the peaceful applications of human engineering capabilities. Lieutenant Rodriguez was promoted to Director of Interspecies Military Relations and tasked with developing exchange programs that would allow alien students to participate in modified versions of human training exercises. The first group of alien exchange students arrived 3 months later and fainted during the simplified orientation course. The Academy decided to establish separate training programs for alien participants after discovering that even heavily modified human exercises exceeded alien physical and psychological limits. The new programs were designed to gradually introduce alien students to human training methods without causing cultural shock or diplomatic incidents. Ashley Brooks graduated as valedictorian and received job offers from multiple alien governments who wanted human military advisors for their officer training programs. She accepted a position developing strategic education curricula for the newly formed Galactic Defense Cooperation Council. The story concluded with the next class of human cadets beginning their training completely unaware that their basic exercises were considered impossible achievements by the rest of the galaxy. Lieutenant Rodriguez watched her new students and smiled as she realized that human military excellence was not the result of superior technology or advanced strategy, but simply the natural outcome of pushing young people to exceed their own expectations of what they could accomplish.